I'm Lance Lysowski, the Sabres beat writer for the Buffalo-News, here with Mike Harrington. And Mike, we had a little bit of news at the end of the NHL draft, didn't we?
Yeah, the last question of Kevyn-Adams was about Jeff Skinner's status in the wake of no trades, wondering if that precluded a buyout. No, it did not, as Adams announced the bombshell we were waiting for, that in fact the initiation of the buyout process has started and the Sabres' $9 million winger is no longer going to be on this club.
Yeah, not surprised, right?
No.
I mean, as soon as they hired Lindy Ruff, we wondered whether Jeff Skinner would fit with the way that Ruff wants to play and where this team needs to go, especially given what we saw the last 30 games of this past season. But Mike, they just lost a 30-goal scorer.
They did.
On a team that was 23rd in the NHL in goals per game. They've yet to add any help. Andrew Mangiapane goes to the Washington Capitals. We've got other players traded. What are they going to do to fill the void that they just created in their lineup?
They did. Now, Kevyn-Adams, big quote out of this, the big takeaway is the offseason is still incomplete. Okay.
It's fair.
I get that. I'm not sure you're going to sign any free agents to come to Buffalo on a 13-year playoff drought. Maybe there's more trades to be made. I understand what they're doing with Jeff Skinner. He did not have a good season. I don't think Jeff Skinner in any way, shape, or form is a Lindy Ruff player. And I think Lindy Ruff is a big factor in this decision to jettison Jeff Skinner off this roster. And here's the biggest thing to me, Lance. It's a difficult situation. You are taking goals away. You are potentially injuring the power play. You're potentially just injuring the entire offense in general. Two things. The first is they think they're going to be better with Ruff as the coach and that they're going to go back more to where they were a couple years ago. And the second thing is, here's the bottom line. That's arguable. Here's what's not arguable. Jeff Skinner is the only player in the history of the NHL to play over 1,000 games and never make the playoffs. And you know what? A lot of that is on Jeff Skinner. That's not all on the teams he's been on in Carolina and Buffalo. He is not a winning player. He did not lift his team at any point in his career, and it's time to move on. And ultimately, whose mistake was this? Who signed Jeff Skinner for $9 million a year?
Terry Pegula.
Thank you very much.
Jason Botterill got blamed for it, but that was Terry Pegula who wanted to give that contract.
Made the mistake. Ownership has to sign off on the buyout, too. So he's righting his own wrong, and they're going to move on and see what happens.
And the decision to do this with Jeff Skinner also ties into the draft, Mike, because fans were not happy to see the Sabres pick as many players as they did these past 2 days, but doing so now gives them the ability to move prospects. So there's no longer any excuse. Because, yes, you can say we're going to need players in entry-level contracts, particularly when Jeff is counting $6.4 million against their cap. Fair point.
In 3 years.
In 3 years, right? And this is all about getting to the playoffs this coming season. But the fact of you have players who are also going to replace the prospects that you're trading now. So the time is to make that trade.
You just made the point, though.
Yeah.
The key point is that they saved $7.5 million on their cap this year. Kevyn-Adams doesn't care about that $6.4 million cap hit in 3 years because he's not going to have a job in 3 years.
And we've seen other teams navigate these sort of tricky situations with the cap over the last few years. Minnesota is a prime example. Yep. It doesn't necessarily prevent you from being a contender. It does decrease the margin for error when it comes to your offseason acquisitions and your drafting and your developing as well. You need these players who are young players to come in and make an impact. So we'll see what happens. You mentioned it. Free agent market is going to be don't count on it, all right? No. They're going to add depth players. They added a fourth liner today, Beck Molyneux, which they got for a second-round pick. We'll see what happens there. They think they can get more out of him. A good player for the Hershey Bears during their run to the Calder Cup a year ago. So potentially a replacement for Zemgus Girgensons?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, why would you bring Zemgus Girgensons back? I know they love him. Ownership loves him. It's been a decade. Isn't it time to move on from Zemgus Girgensons at this point?
Yeah, bring in some new voices and create an opportunity for players like Rasmus Dahlin to become more prominent leaders in that room, to feel more confident in speaking up in different situations. But when we're talking about Jeff Skinner, though, and the need for a top six winger, you look around the league at who's available. The Jets already said Nikolai Ehlers isn't going anywhere. So that leads me to believe, Mike, pure speculation, that Martin Necas has to be the Sabres' target.
Has to be the target.
Because that is the top forward available in the trade market. He's a restricted free agent. fits with their timeline, a guy they'd be able to sign to a bridge deal to possibly lead into a longer-term extension. They have the futures. They have everything they need to possibly get this player. And now we'll see if they can make a deal because, again, we were talking last summer, Mike, that are they going to do something? Are they going to do something?
When are they going to do it?
And it never happened. And there's no choice. That can't happen this time around, especially after they did this with Jeff Skinner.
No, they rolled it back last year and thought they were good. And they weren't good. They weren't good enough at all. Now they're running out Jeff Skinner. They're buying him out. They're going to have to transform this roster quickly. Again, Kevyn-Adams is no longer in building mode. He is in win now, must build the team this year mode, or he's out of a job. That's just the bottom line. He's not going to be the GM of this team next year if they don't make the playoffs again. They have to replace Jeff Skinner with an NHL caliber player. Not with Yuri Kulik, not with somebody from Rochester. It's got to be an NHL trade. It's not going to be a free agent, but the Martin Necas situation to me, 25 years old, looks like the play for the Buffalo-Sabres. He has to get it done.
Unrestricted free agency starts Monday at noon. Sabres development camp running at the same time through Thursday. There's no off-season trade deadline, so we'll see what happens. I'm Lysowski. He's Mike Harrington. See you next time.